Hello. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of What's New Wednesday. Today, I am going to be sharing with you all some new stuff that's in the shop. Mostly, I'm going to be talking about fabric. And I got a lot of new fabric in last week, and a lot of fabric that I've been waiting on for a while came back in stock. So I'm going to be sharing with you a bunch of the different fabric that I stock, and hello, and giving you some ideas of what you can do with it. So I'm going to go ahead and jump right in and start off talking about the Shetland Flannel that I just got in. I have it in 6 different colors. There's some more colors that are going to be coming in soon. So fabric has been, I'm sure if you're a fabric buyer, you've noticed in the last 6 months that fabric has become one of those things that's just been really tough to get a hold of. Long back orders. It's just tough. So there are going to be a few more colors of this coming in, but for now I've got these 6 colors. And what I really love about this flannel is how incredibly soft it is. It is I like wish you all could touch this. It is buttery soft. This is not at all like the kind of flannel that you might buy at one of the big box stores, which was really what I was familiar with as flannel when I first started sewing. And that stuff is thinner. It tends to pill fairly easily. This kind of flannel is 2-ply, so it's loftier, it's softer, and it's really sturdy. It's really lovely. And the scarf that I'm wearing right now is I'm made with the basil colored Shetland flannel. If you can see, it's got a herringbone pattern to it, which means that the weft and the weave are 2 different colors. It's like an off-white and a dark green. So when you pull out the fringe, you get this 2-toned fringe effect, which I think is really lovely. To make this scarf, it's actually a free pattern from Robert Kaufman. I sent it out in my newsletter last week. Hey! But what I'm going to do tomorrow is I'm going to put up a blog post kind of recapping and putting... hello! Thank you for joining from Colombia. And recapping all the things, putting links to all the things that I mentioned, because last time I got a lot of questions about what was this, was that. So tomorrow on my blog, you'll find a post that has links. I'll put a link to the pattern for this scarf. But basically, you'll need about 1.5 yards of it. It took me about 1.5 hours to make it. And what's really cool is that for $15, you can make a really pretty gift set for someone for the holidays. The scarf is minimal sewing. The hardest part is pulling out the threads to make the fringe. And with 1.5 yards, you'll have enough fabric left over that you can make a little coordinating mask so that you have a nice little set of the scarf with the mask. And I think it would be a really cute gift set for someone. So making the scarf was very easy. I basically sat on my couch as we were watching a movie, and I just sat there with a little bucket and pulled all of the threads out. There's probably easier ways to do that, but something that is brand new in the shop and that I use to make this scarf is this new tool called a kakehari, or a third hand. It's from Tulip, and what it is basically a modern version of a really old sewing tool that was developed in the 19th century called a sewing bird. But really what it is it gives you this extra clamp. So what I did, it comes either by itself or it has this table clamp with it. so that it gives you a place to attach the kakehari to, and it gives you an anchor. You can attach this onto, you've got almost 2 inches worth of space here, so you can attach this onto any sort of table. I have a chair that has a little wooden edge to it, and so I attached it onto that. And then what I did was I put one edge of the flannel into the clamp, and then set it aside for me, and then worked from this end, and that gave me really nice tension to be able to pull the threads out really easily. So this was super duper handy for making the scarf. This is another thing that this is really, really handy for, is making sashiko thread braids. There is a tutorial on the blog for exactly how to do these and how to turn all of your sashiko thread into braids like this. The benefit of having them in braids is that you will have pre-cut pieces of sashiko thread ready to go when you need them. You just pull one out from the top when you need it, and it's ready to go. It doesn't tangle. You can start stitching right away. And this comes in super handy. Normally, I just have my daughters hold on to the edge while I sit there and braid. But with the clamp, you just put the clamp on the top, put it onto your anchor, and braid away. So this is a new tool that's in the shop now. Like I said, it's really handy. Folks use it for hand stitching, for quilting, hand quilting, binding. You can even use it for sashiko. Anything that you're going to need, that you think like, I could really use an extra hand here, this little clamp is really handy. So, but back to the flannels. So this is, the scarf is a really easy project that you can use for the flannels. Like I showed you, I made a mask out of it, and let me tell you that these flannel masks are really, really warm and toasty. I had this on for a little while last night, and it's warmed up here a little bit. It's like in the 70s, and I got way too warm. But I think in the winter, this is going to be really nice. I put double gauze inside, so it's really nice and soft along my face, but the flannel on the outside kept it really nice and warm. So those are the Shetland Flannels. The other fabric that came in last week that folks are really excited about is the Essex Speckle. If you are familiar with the Essex yarn dye, which I love and have used for years, this is their new line of Speckle, and it has little speckles on all of the colors. And again, I have 7 colors in right now. And there's a few more that should hopefully be here by the end of October, November. These are really, really lovely. A friend of mine recently got some, and she described it as buttery soft right off the bolt. They are a little bit different from the regular Essex, if you are used to working with this at all. The regular yarn dyed Essex is 55% linen, 45% cotton. The Speckle is 31% linen, 68% cotton, and 1% polyester. So it's actually softer, I think, than the regular yarn dye, and it's drapier, I think. It's really nice to hold. I started an embroidery project on it right away. It's really, really nice for embroidery. If you like doing any of the open stitches like eyelets or Algerian eyes, the weave on this is loose enough that you can actually get a really nice little eyelet in there. So the Essex Speckle is fantastic. I have used Essex I love it for embroidery. I've used it in quilts. I use it in bag making. This is a weekender tote, and I made my straps, my binding. So I use Essex kind of all the time. I really, really love it. So now we have the Essex Speckle in the shop, and like I said, you can find those. The next set of fabric This is not necessarily new. I've had this for a while, but it was out of stock for a long time. And now all of the different fabrics are back. These are the from Sevenberry of Japan. These are the Nara Homespun and Cassidy fabrics. The difference between the two lines is that the Cassidy fabrics are more like your quilting cottons. They are a plain, they feel just like a quilting cotton. They just have like really sweet, whimsical Japanese designs on them. The Nara Homespun fabrics they're a medium weight. They have a looser weave to them. They are a little bit thicker. They have more texture to them. They are really, really lovely as well. So there's all of the prints that I had before are now back in stock. And actually just yesterday, a brand new bolt arrived, which is this denim asanoha or hemp leaf design. And as you can see, it actually has the sashiko print on there. So there's so many possibilities for this. You can sashiko stitch on here to bring out, just a few elements on there. It is like I said, the medium weight, slightly thicker. I love, love, love this, but I'm a huge fan of denim. So anything that has that denim texture to it, I'm going to love. I've used these fabrics. I really love how they look for kind of patchwork, Bodo-inspired type work. So this is a little rice bag that I made and stitched on top of kind of combining the different Cassidy and Homespun fabrics. So you have those. I have also started adding some denim and chambray fabrics into the shop. So when I'm looking for fabric that I'm going to add to the shop, what I'm really looking for is stuff that you can use for stitch work. It's fantastic that you can also use it for garment making and quilting and really anything else you'd use fabric, but I'm not looking to replicate a quilt fabric shop. There are so many amazing fabric stores out there already. What I'm really looking for when I'm looking for fabrics to add to the shop is things that you guys can use. I get asked a lot, what's a good fabric to use for embroidery? What's a good fabric to use for sashiko? So when I'm looking for fabrics, when I'm looking for prints, that's really what I'm looking for, what I have in mind. And denim is, I just said, it's one of my favorite fabrics. I use it all the time in all sorts of things, and it's a fantastic base for sashiko, bodo, mending projects, for embroidery. So that's why I'm starting to add some denim. I've got two chambrays. Chambrays are a lightweight. They're great for if you do garment sewing. They make beautiful shirts, really nice and flowy, lightweight. I've used these in quilting. I've used them in bag making. And then I do have a medium weight denim as well in this kind of dark indigo. Here's an example of a bag where I use denim for the bottom of the bag and also to reinforce the handles. I use denim in this quilt as my backing fabric. So when I was making this quilt, I had wanted something to use as like a picnic blanket, and I thought I would use something a little thicker as the backing. I've never used this as a picnic blanket because it has become one of my all-time favorite quilts, and it's actually usually on my bed. What happens to denim is just exactly like your favorite pair of jeans that you wash it and it becomes softer and softer. That's the same thing that happens. So on the back of this quilt, this denim has become really soft and just cozy and comfy. So there's lots of uses for denim. Like I said, I've started with just these three, but if they do okay, then I think I'll go ahead and add some more. But my intention or some projects that I have in mind to use these for is I've got some sashiko border panels in mind that I want to use these as the base. So you've got a couple of denim choices. The other new thing in the shop is the American-made muslin. There are three kinds. There's white, there's a natural, and there is what's called PFD bleached, which is prepared for dyeing. The PFD muslin is a little bit stiffer than the other two, but all three are now in the shop. And I use muslin for embroidery. That is my preferred backing for pretty much any embroidery hoop that you see of mine. I've got muslin on the back, especially if I am working on a lighter weight fabric. This gives me, I feel like it gives me a better stitch tension when I put a backing on it. I don't really like, I've used the, what do you call it, like SF101, the Pellon type interfacings, and over time they kind of fall apart. It's not my favorite thing to use. Muslin is pretty much what I use all the time when I am embroidering. So that's one of the reasons why I added it into the shop, is in case you're looking for a backing fabric for your embroidery projects, muslin is a great choice. It's also a great fabric if you're wanting to try some things out and it's inexpensive, you want to just give something a whirl, test out some colors, learn some new stitches. It's a great fabric to stitch on. So there's now some muslin in the shop as well. And in addition to the fabric, there's been a couple other new things that have arrived recently. There is a brand new cozy blue pattern called Cozy Cabin, which I think is absolutely adorable, and I think it's a great time of year to be stitching a cute little A-frame cabin in the woods. If you like little cabins, these are not new, but the big box from Israel, from Tamar, just arrived this weekend, and so all of Tamar's kits are now back in stock. Lots of holiday designs. This is Snowy Night, I believe it's called, and it's another cute little cabin in the woods. If you are not familiar with Tamar's kits, she really just does such a beautiful job. You know, she packages all of these by hand. She winds the thread on all these little cards. They're really just lovely, lovely patterns. So all of her kits are now back in stock, which is really exciting. A few other cute little things that are now in. There's a couple new needle minders. There's this little cherry tree branch. There's a little owl sitting on a branch and a little deer. Hello. There's a little deer with a little butterfly on it. So there's a few new needle minders, and these little wooden needle minders, which were also out of stock for a very long time, are all back. So if you were looking for any of the little needle minders, those are all back. And Merchant & Mills, there are the wooden map pins. These are just for fun. If you have a bulletin board, these are just old school wooden push pins, and they're a lot of fun. So those are now in the shop. So that is kind of an overview of some of the new stuff that I have. The other thing that I said that I was going to talk about tonight was I was going to share some tips for transferring embroidery patterns. So let's get going with that. My number one suggestion for folks is if you can find a pattern that you like that comes in an iron-on transfer, that is hands down the easiest way to transfer a pattern onto any sort of fabric that you want. These fun facts, Sublime Stitching is actually one of the very first things that I ever stocked in Snuggly Monkey. It was the very first embroidery supplies that I ever stocked. I love Jenny's patterns. They're a lot of fun. They're great if you're just getting into embroidery, and for advanced stitchers as well, because you can adapt them. They're very easily, you can do them all with a single back stitch, or you can get crazy and add all sorts of color and fun stitches into it. So when you get these iron-on transfers, what you get is some pattern instructions, and then you get your pattern sheet. This is one I've used a lot, so I've actually cut it up already. So you have all your little designs. you pick which one you want, you cut it out, and this ink is a special iron-on transfer ink. So what you're going to do is you take this, you put it face down on your fabric, you iron it with a dry, hot iron, and you want to press. You don't really want to go back and forth because that can give you blurry lines, so you just want to press with your iron, and you will get your pattern transferred onto your fabric in really nice, dark, thin lines. The each iron-on transfer pattern, you can usually transfer these about 6 or 7 times before the ink runs out. So you've got lots and lots of transfers on there. An important thing to remember, though, is that these are permanent ink, so they will not wash away. I've had lots of sad, disappointed people that don't realize that. So anytime you see an iron-on transfer ink that I know of, it's always permanent. I've never heard of an iron-on transfer washable ink. What's the name of the one that I'm working on now? The one that I'm working on now is the Sublime Borders. It is this one with the bee. And then soon I'm going to be doing the camping one as well. I posted this over the weekend and they sold out pretty quickly, but there's more on order and will hopefully be here next week. You can also get them directly from Sublime Stitching. I sell her iron-on transfers. If you just want her PDF patterns, you can buy them directly from her site. So this is the Sublime Borders. I should show you these are really big. This is one of her big transfer sheets. So I believe the whole strip is 17 inches long. So these are great. Her Sublime Borders she meant for like tea towels and pillowcases. It's a really nice long strip if you want to do it straight from the iron-on pattern. So if you are able to find a pattern that you like that comes in an iron-on transfer sheet, you're set. You can pretty much transfer those onto just about anything. Word of warning with those is that iron-on transfers are always in black ink, which means that they're not going to transfer onto dark fabrics. This happens a lot, especially with this pattern. Folks see the picture of it and they see this beautiful moon on this dark fabric. They buy the iron-on transfer because they want to put it on their own fabric, and it doesn't work because the ink is going to transfer in black. So it's obviously it's not going to show up. When you buy the kit, the fabric that comes with the kit is digitally printed. So the pattern is digitally printed on here in white ink. It's not transferred on through an iron-on transfer. So that's how it works with the kit, is if you're using, it's not, like I said, it's not iron-on transferred. I'm going to talk about transferring onto dark fabrics in a minute, but I just wanted to mention that if you are using a iron-on transfer, it's not going to work to transfer it onto a dark fabric. They only really work onto lighter fabrics. Like I said, your iron-on transfers the ink on there will last about 6 or 7 times. Doesn't mean your pattern is dead after that. All you need is to get yourself an iron-on transfer pen. Again, these are probably my favorites. They're also from Sublime Stitching. It's the fine tip iron-on transfer pen. And it's exactly what it sounds like. It is a fine tip, so you get a nice thin line. They work really well. Also, once you ink your pattern, you can transfer it several times before the ink disappears. This is probably what I use the most to transfer patterns. So you guys are seeing this and able to read it normally. But on my end, whenever you print something that you're going to have words that you put on a pattern, make sure that you're printing it mirrored or flipped, because you're going to be ironing it this way. So if you print your pattern and you're going to be using an iron-on transfer and you don't mirror it, when you transfer that onto your fabric, the letters are going to be backwards. So that's another big tip, is if you're transferring a pattern that has any sort of writing on it, make sure that you mirror the image before you apply the iron-on transfer ink and transfer it down. So there are several iron-on transfer options. You've got the pens. There are these pencils from Clover, and let me show you what those look like. So this is a Molly Johnson from Wild Olive. This is one of her free patterns. I printed it on my printer. I used the pencil to then trace over all of the letters. And again, I know you guys are seeing this, that it looks normal, but on my end, this is actually mirrored because when I transferred it over onto the speckle, oh, and you can't even barely see it on your end. But the pattern is on here, even though it's not showing up on the camera. They transfer, no, I was showing you the wrong side. That's why it wasn't showing up. So there you go, there's the pattern. So the pencil, the iron-on pencil, gives you a lighter line. So if you're worried about your lines showing through your stitching, the pencil might be a nice option. They come in blue or in red ink, or pencil rather, and it's the same exact thing. You trace the letters and then you iron it, press it. I keep saying iron, but really you want to press. You don't want to go back and forth because you're going to blur your lines if you do that. No steam, hot iron, and then that's how you get your pattern onto just about any fabric that you want. Big question that always comes up is dark fabrics, and how do you get patterns onto dark fabrics? There's a couple of things you can do. If you have a fabric that is thin enough for you to see through when you hold it up to the light, something that you can do is, if you have a light box or a window on a sunny day, you put your pattern on the window, put your dark fabric on top of that, and then what I use is the Jelly Roll white ink pen. And then you trace your pattern using a light source behind it onto your dark fabric. This is the Speckled Black Essex. It is thin enough that light shines through it really easily and nicely. So this was fairly easy to transfer the image over. If you are working with a fabric, let's say a denim, that you can't see through, you have a couple of other options. Probably my favorite one for those situations is this stuff that's called Sticky Fabri-Solvi. These come in 8.5 by 11 sheets, so you can run them through your printer, print whatever pattern you want on it. And what this stuff is this, it's this kind of, exactly what it sounds like, it's this sticky, water-soluble fabric that you, once you have printed it, you peel it off, and then you stick it onto whatever fabric you want to be stitching on. You go ahead, you stitch your pattern up, and once you're done, you submerge it in water, and with a little bit of like friction of your finger, the paper disappears. I have had some people ask, like, does it make your fabric sticky in the end, or I've never had that experience. This is a pattern that I stitched using the Fabri-Solvi. There's no residue on here whatsoever. It's not remotely sticky. I even used metallic thread and had no problems with it whatsoever. The only caution that I would give you there is if you are using any of the hand-dyed threads, even though most of them say that they're color fast, especially if you're using something like a red or colors that have a tendency to leach color, I would pre-soak your hand-dyed threads first, because your final piece does have to get wet in order for you to get that sticky Fabri-Solvi off. So this is, I think what's the easiest way to stitch onto dark fabric, because you have your whole pattern there, stitch it up, wash it away, and it's gone. So Sticky Fabri-Solvi is really helpful. You can also use one of the thicker transfer pens. Sulky makes one. This gives you a really nice bold line. So it's black, so it's still not going to work on black fabric, but on like a dark denim, you'll be able to see this. Sublime Stitching has a really nice bold tip transfer pen. Unfortunately, that's been out of stock for about 4 months now, and I don't know when that's going to be available again. But if you're able to track one down, or when they come back in stock again, Sublime Stitching's bold tip transfer pen works really well on denim. I've used that. So does the Sulky, and the Sulky comes in a bunch of different colors. I sell it in black by itself, or I have a 4-pack that has blue, red, orange, and black, I think. So if you like having different colored lines, you can do that. So this is it's going to give you a thicker line. So you're going to have to use maybe a pearl cotton or all 6 strands of embroidery floss to be able to cover the line, and these are permanent, so the lines will not wash away after you're done stitching. But if you really want to stitch on a dark denim, another dark color that's not black, these are a good option. If disappearing lines is important to you, then another way to transfer a pattern would be to use friction pens. These are the pens that when you iron over them, the lines disappear. The lines will reappear in really cold weather. So like if you're embroidering a scarf to wear in Wisconsin in the winter, your line might reappear after that, or if you're putting your embroidery in the freezer. But if you're not doing those two situations, the lines do disappear once you iron them. So you could use the light box or the window method to trace your pattern with a friction pen, and then when you're done, you iron over it, the lines disappear, and you don't have to worry about lines showing through if you're not able to cover them with all of your stitches. You can also use the water erasable or air erase markers using the same method to transfer your patterns onto whatever fabric you would like. And that way you are really limited by your imagination in terms of where you can embroider, what you can embroider onto. I'm sure you've seen folks stitching onto Converse sneakers and all sorts of things, and that's a really easy way to get your pattern onto those different surfaces. You're not just tied to embroidering on pre-printed samplers. You can really do it anywhere onto anything that you'd like. So that's pretty much everything I think that I have here to show you all. Thank you for joining me, and unless anybody has any last minute questions, I'll give you a second to type those in. Hopefully I'll be back again in a couple of weeks showing you some more new things. Like I said, things continue to be unpredictable with supply lines, so I'm never quite sure what's going to show up from week to week, but hoping that a couple more fun things I've been waiting on for a while should be showing up soon. So, all right, I think there's no more questions, so thank you all again. Have a great night. And, I almost forgot. I'm so sorry. I mentioned earlier I'm going to be putting a recap of this tomorrow morning on the blog. I'll put links to all of the things I talked about, to the pattern for the scarf, and I'm also going to be giving away this stack of Essex Speckle. So be sure to check the blog probably by noon. I'm going to work on it in the morning, so it'll be up by noon, and enter for a chance to win this stack of Speckle so that you can have some fun with it. All right, I will see you guys again soon. Thanks. Bye.